Hello, everyone. Thank you. Have a seat. Actually, let's get the energy up. Stand up a bit. That's it. Thank you. And I would like you to take a deep breath, because when you take a deep breath, that tells your unconscious mind the danger's over. So take a deep breath, a belly breath. Check that your tongue is on the bottom of your mouth. That also gets rid of the stress, because we hold our tongue on the top when we're stressed, so on the bottom. And then I want you to stretch your fingers, look up in the air, show all your teeth like you're at a dentist convention, and say, yes, 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 woo! And now have a seat. Thank you. So as you can hear, I'm from England. My accent hasn't changed in 30 years, I believe. Surprise. I was brought up in Manchester in England, and my father was really, really good at two things. One, making money. Second, he was abusive. And he was abusive physically, mentally, emotionally, and sexually. And it was when I was actually 13 years old, my sister died of cancer. And he turned around and he said, I wish you died instead of her. Oh. So I had a wild teens, as you can imagine. And the good news about being abused is it makes you very, very psychic. So who's actually very psychic here? You, yes, exactly. Usually because you've not had such a great childhood, right? It means you're on high alert all the time. So that's the real benefit of being abused. So I actually went into my teens, and as I got to 18, 19, I decided to be a teacher, qualified as a teacher. And my grandmother had actually run the Spiritualist Church in Manchester. She was, in the 1950s, she used to run the Spiritualist Church. So I was grown up doing the hands-on healing, which I learned was called Reiki later. And also, she was really, really pioneering in Manchester for all the spiritual stuff. And I used to do readings for all the old biddies in the church. Now I'm one of the old biddies. So, yeah. And actually, when I got into Canada, I was 36 years old. I had become a teacher, lived in Italy for 3 years teaching, lived in South Africa for 3 years, where I became head of the Human Resources Department in the Bantu administration, so I learned to speak Zulu, very interestingly. And then I went to speak in Portugal, and I actually sold properties in Portugal. Meanwhile, always doing the readings, always did palmistry, tarot, numerology, and past life regression. And then when I actually came to Canada at 36 years old, I tried to get in as a teacher, as a writer. They didn't want me. And I went to a lawyer and said, look, there's a psychic fair coming up. Can I please get a work permit, a visa? And she said, why don't you just come in as a clairvoyant? And I was like, how? A clairvoyant? How? She said, you're not taking a job away from anybody. You can't teach it, although we know you can. And I said, sure, why not? So I went down to Detroit, and the consul there was the one who interviewed me. And he looked at the TV shows I've been doing and the radio shows, and he said, oh, you'll make money. He said, that's fine. He said, what do you call yourself? So I said, a clairvoyant. And he looked up the clairvoyant on the list, and it wasn't there. He said, I've got fortune teller. He said, do you mind being a fortune teller? And I'm like, okay, I'll be a fortune teller, whatever, just let me in. And so I actually came into Canada as a fortune teller, which is very interesting. So as I got to Canada, I was 36 years old, and I realized suddenly that maybe it wasn't everybody else around me. Maybe it was me that had a few issues. So I started to work on myself. I did rebirthing, I did gestalt therapy, talk therapy. Who's done all those things? I mean, it's like, we did it all right. And it was when I discovered hypnosis that everything changed for me. I was grinding my teeth and giving myself a headache. And my doctor said, well, why don't you go and see a hypnotist? So it was $50. I got it on OHIP. And I said, sure, I'll do that. So I went upstairs into the building and made the appointment. And as I knocked on the door, this little man opened the door, and he had a little bow tie, and he was South African. And he said, hello, what's your problem? I said, I've been grinding my teeth. He said, good, sit down. He said, close your eyes. And it was like, that was the induction, okay. So I closed my eyes, and he said, we're going on a journey, you and me. And I was like, oh, God, do I have to take you with me? Really? No, thank you. And he's like, we're going up a mountainside, and we come across a rock. So I got my zapper out, and I zapped the rock. And he said, we're going to remove the rock. I said, it's gone already. He said, what do you mean it's gone? I said, I zapped it with my zapper, like you do when rocks are in the way. And he said, this has never happened to me before. He said, let's put the rock back. And I'm like, okay, I guess I know that that's not what's supposed to happen. And I'd been doing meditation for years, and I thought, I can do this. This is easy stuff. And the interesting thing was, he didn't build any rapport. He didn't do anything right. Literally, everything he did was the opposite of what you're supposed to do, and it worked. And I was like, okay, this is fantastic, amazing. So the first time I had a stage show experience was fantastic. You're going to get a stage show tonight, and I'm going to be in it, because I go on every stage show. I just love being in that medium to deep trance. So who's coming on tonight? Yes? Come on, everybody in. Exactly. So it was with the incredible Boris. I was on the OAH for, the Ontario Hypnosis Association for a year, the board of directors. And we had a stage show. And the incredible Boris was giving out $100 bills that were actually tissues. And I was stuffing them down my top here. Yeah, thank you, I'll have $100. Thank you, I'll have $100. And he actually, he turned around and he said, people on the stage, people on the stage. He said, I'm going to turn around and you're going to see me naked from the neck downwards. So I was like, okay. And as he walked across, I saw this little thing going like this. and he said, I always do that to make myself feel good. I said, I don't know why, it was very small. and he turned around and he said, people on the stage, when I turn around, you'll see the biggest member standing in front of me that you've ever seen in your whole life. And he turned around and I saw this 3-foot thing. Well, I had tears rolling down my face. It was so funny. And he came next to me and he said, what is it? I said, you know what it is. You know what? I wouldn't look. And he said, do you want this $100 bill? And he took this $100 bill out of his pocket and gave it to me. I said, no, thank you. No, thank you. Because my thought process went, if I take that $100 bill, if he's got something that big, there's no way he can have a pair of underpants on. And that meant that was touching his... So I was like, no, thank you. Very interesting what state you can go into when you go into deep hypnosis, right? It's really very interesting. So I studied everything. I did my PhD in clinical hypnosis, 7 years, and got my master's. I live in Niagara Falls with a 4,000 square foot house. I have people training with me. I waited till I was 41 to have a baby. I actually married at 41 and had a baby at 42. And the reason was I wanted to make sure I was clear of my own stuff before I put it on anybody else, right? And it was when Katie was about 2.5 and she was crying and pulling my skirt while I was peeling the potatoes. And I remember turning around and thinking, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry for. And I was just about to say it, and I was like, oh, no, I'm going to repeat the patterns. So I put her in the other room, said, sit here watching TV, darling, I'll be with you soon. And I literally made a vow to myself that day that everything coming out of my lips was going to be positive. Nothing was going to come out that wasn't absolutely boosting and feeling good. So much so that I actually started writing my book. Every Word Has Power. How to change the way you think inside your mind and how to change your self-talk. Because 85% of your self-talk is negative. Did you know that? There's a very good reason for it. Because when you actually... When we were in the jungle years ago, if leaves rustled, your attention has to be at the leaves, not at the beautiful blue sky or anything. We're programmed to search for negative. We're deep wired for that. And it was when she was about 5. I was sitting in the car, and a woman came out in front of me, and I said, silly cow! And I suddenly heard this little voice from behind saying, take a deep breath, go to a safe place in nature. And go down a river in a boat. And I turned around and said, how did you know to say that? And she said, I listen. It was very interesting. She actually went on to take her master's NLP in hypnosis at 18. And she went to Amity University to do musical theatre. And she actually used to run mental health days for her sorority sisters. It was amazing. So it got a bit later. As I said, the book came out. And the reason it came out was that I'd seen messages from water. And I said to my assistant, find out who the publisher is. I said, because my work is very similar to the messages from Water, Dr. Emoto. So she found the publisher, and I called up and said, your publisher needs to read my book. And unbeknownst to me, they'd just published The Secret. So it was this huge organization suddenly. And her assistant said, well, what's the book about? I said, it's about the power of words and how to change your self-talk. And she said, send it to me. So I'm like, okay. She said, I'll try and get it in her box, in the publisher's box. So I literally FedExed it overnight, $40. And Monday morning, I got a phone call from the publisher saying, you've got a deal. Because it was really very, very much exactly what she said. She had said the day before to her assistant, I wish someone would write a book about the power of words. And literally, I phoned the next day. And she said, I also wish that, unlike The Secret, which tells you what to do, I would love a book on how to do it. And my book also did that. So she just said it was amazing. It's now in 11 languages, and the New York Book Club commissioned the kit to come from it, so it's actually done really, really well, still doing well. As I got older, I started studying more and more and more and started traveling around. I've done PTSD with all the Iraqi war vets. I've worked with the First Nations. This last year I've been in Switzerland. And worked with the Wartworth prisoners, the sexual murderers at Wartworth. Very interesting. I love the big cases. I love really, really strong stuff because I've been there myself, so I know how to get out of that. And I know, to me, the quicker the better. If it's going to take someone else 3 years, can I do it in 3 minutes? And yes, I can. It's fun. So I guess it was about last February, I actually woke up and Katie came to sit on my bed as usual. And we used to have lovely talks. We were best friends, amazing friends. Like, she was my love of my life. She was amazing. And I said, I had the most awful dream, Kate. I said, I dreamt that you were dead. And she said, oh, you'll never get rid of me, Mum. And we were laughing and joking. And then I woke up and I realized it was true. She died 3 months before. And she was actually in the local hospital with an ovary that had gone hemorrhagic, and instead of taking it out, they tried to drain it, and they left it inside for 2 weeks, so it went necrotic. So she ended up with cancer and kidney failure, and I got her to Mexico for 5 weeks into Chipsa to get the cancer, and they said there's nothing we can do, her kidneys have failed. So I brought the body back, and that Christmas, of course, I never got to the checkout once, not once. I literally went in, Christmas carol started, I was in the car and sobbing. And it got to the point where I remember that morning I woke up realizing it was true. I heard a scream, and I realized it was me screaming. So I actually screamed from 9 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock the next day. It was the least good day of my life. And from then on, every reason for doing this work wasn't there anymore. What I realized, though, when I started back at work, was that when I work, I don't hurt. And my whole reason for doing the work was no longer there. I wanted her kids to grow up in a safe world. I wanted to pass on the DNA, the different DNA. And suddenly everything was just taken away from me. And anybody who's lost a child, there are no words. There are literally no words. And it was about mid-year, not last year, hypnosis saved my life. It really did. I was doing hypnosis every day. I was doing half an hour a day and just getting back to center, crying, getting back to center, crying, getting back to center, doing my work with a smile on my face. And I actually got to a point where I thought, I can't do this anymore. There's nothing here for me. There's nothing here for me anymore. And I actually went into a hypnosis state. I actually went into like a lucid dream almost in the hypnosis. And I was in my inner temple with my angel. And Katie stood in front of me and she said, Mum, because she called me Mum, not Mom. She called me the English Mum. She said, we're so proud of you. She said, you should see every time you work with someone when you're teaching. She said, it's amazing. She said, it's like a light starts glowing and then ribbons of light just fly out all around the world. And she said, when a client releases their stuff, it's like watching a fireworks show go off. It's amazing. She said, you have to carry the work on. It's so important. And that was the day that I decided, you know what? It's worth carrying on for. And since then, it's not any easier. Every day I have to wake up sometimes and think, you know, what's the point getting up today? And then I work with someone, and then I realize that I'm helping still, I'm making a difference. So I'd like to give you the gift today of realizing that every time you work with someone, and every time you're kind to someone, and every time you give love to someone, you are giving out this most amazing light to the whole of the world. And if all of us can do that just once a day, just be kind to someone once a day, we're going to make such a difference in the world. And I love the fact that everybody here is so committed to changing the world the way I am. So thank you very much. God bless you, and shine out your light.